You're listening to All Things Sports with Mike Davis.
Hey, what is going on, everybody? Glad you can join me on another podcast of All Things Sports with Mike Davis. I thank you for including my podcast into your day or night or in the evening, in your car, on your bike, on the treadmill, whenever you're listening. It's up to you. If you're listening on Spotify, please go ahead, follow the podcast. If you're on YouTube, subscribe, comment, like, all that good stuff. Go to the Facebook page to get in contact with the show with any comments or any suggestions. I won't take up much more of your time. Let's get into it. All right, so happy Sunday to everybody that is listening or not listening. Hope your weekend is going well. And if this is your first time tuning into the podcast, there are times where I like to start the show off where I talk about what I'm watching. And sadly, this will be my last time talking about Snowfall until it comes back. So, spoiler alerts, if you haven't seen the last episode of Snowfall until it comes back the next season. I won't say I was disappointed, but the last episode wasn't all that. The episode before that, where Jerome went through killing everybody on the episode, it was so much better. That should have been the season finale. This year they leave you on a cliffhanger of Franklin Saint. His dad and his mom ended up leaving the United States after they threatened to expose Reed, who was Franklin's dealer for the government, as far as the selling the cocaine. And he let it be known that Franklin Saint is the largest cocaine dealer in America. There was even a part where Reed, Saint, and his dad had a standoff, and they ended up coming to an agreement, fleeing the country. And then later on, you see that Reed catches up to Franklin Saint's father, and I knew that was going to happen. Reed just wasn't, it doesn't show Reed killing Saint's dad at their new home outside the country, but I knew Reed was going to come back for him. He's a loose end, and Reed wasn't going to let him just have that kind of information on him and be alive and live to tell about it. So, last episode, it wasn't bad, but it wasn't great either. So, that's my little take on my show, Snowfall. Now I have to get into another show, see what's coming on, what's out there. All right, so let's get into the real reason why we are here. And we are here to discuss one Mr. Big Shot, Chauncey Billups. Now, the big question on Chauncey Billups is he a Hall of Famer? The reason I'm asking that question is because it seems like him and Ben Wallace, from those Pistons teams, they are upset that they're not getting the notoriety, the recognition that they should. From their Pistons days when they were pretty much dominating the Eastern Conference. Now, I saw an article recently where Chauncey Billups was, I don't want to say he was complaining, but he was saying that, look, he's just as good or as deserving as Allen Iverson, saying how did Iverson go to a finals? He lost, and then he went to a finals himself with the Pistons and won. Not just once, he went to a finals twice. Now, he won one of those finals. And he also, I believe he played with AI, with the Denver Nuggets. And he took them deep into the playoffs. And I wanted to go over Chauncey Billups' career because I think a lot of times we just look at Billups with the naked eye and we say, oh, either he's a Hall of Famer or he's not a Hall of Famer. Now, with AI, look, I'm not even going to go over Allen Iverson's career. It's no need to. Allen Iverson is deserving to be in the Hall of Fame. We don't even need to look at AI, what he accomplished in his NBA career. All right, so let's take a look at Chauncey Billups. Chauncey Billups, 17 seasons in the NBA. I was very surprised when I was going over some of the things he's done in his time in the league. He averaged 15 points, 2 boards, 5 assists a game. He was a 5-time All-Star, won the NBA Finals in 2004. He was named Finals MVP during that Finals. Also, he is a 3-time All-NBA player. That is, I believe that is, not sure if that was second team or third team. I don't think he made any all first teams. Now, he's a 2-time All-Defensive second team, so yeah, I think he's a 3-time All-NBA third team. He is also a gold medalist. Now, also, a stat I didn't know. I thought this would be a LeBron James stat right here. For you LeBron guys out there. Billups is the only player to lead his team to 7 consecutive conference finals appearances. Now, this is where it gets interesting. These are the teams he played for. Now, he was drafted by the Boston Celtics in 97. Traded that same year to the Toronto Raptors during his rookie season. Toronto then in turn traded him a year later to Denver. The Nuggets then traded him to the Magic. And then he ended up signing with the T-Wolves. Played 2 years in Minnesota. Now, that last year in Minnesota is when things started to turn for him. And he started to get comfortable in playing in the NBA. After that, he signed with the Pistons. Look, we know the rest is history after that. And then later on, after playing most of his better years with the Detroit Pistons, they traded him to the Nuggets. Then he was traded to the Knicks. I believe the Knicks waived him. Then he signed with the Clippers. And then he signed again with the Pistons to finish his career off. Those are a lot of teams to play for. And I'm going to be straight up with you. And I asked some people this question. Hey, did you think do you think Chauncey Billups is a Hall of Famer? And a lot of times, I'm glad I wasn't alone in this, because people would say no. I was one of them. I was saying Chauncey Billups is not a Hall of Famer. I don't know what he's complaining about. I don't know where he gets off that he's just as good as Allen Iverson. Allen Iverson is a once in a generation talent. Now, I said all that watching Chauncey Billups with just the naked eye. So I had to go back and I had to do my research and see what he's done in the league. Chauncey Billups was putting in work. I had no idea this guy was out here doing this. So that kind of changed my perspective a little bit on Billups. But the problem is that he had that Ben Wallace effect. Now, after going through what he's done in the league, pretty much his first 5 years, Billups, just like Ben Wallace, did nothing in the NBA. He did nothing. I mean, he was expendable everywhere he went. As you mentioned, him being drafted by the Celtics, they got rid of him. The Raptors got rid of him. The Nuggets got rid of him the first time. The T-Wolves didn't care to re-sign him. Orlando threw him away. That's 5 teams, people. That's 5 teams in about a 5 or 6 year period where teams just dumped Billups and said, just go away. But like I said, that last year in Minnesota, it seemed like he kind of started to understand his place in the league and understand what kind of player he was and what he was about. And that's when things started to change for him. And he went to Detroit, played under Larry Brown, who I think that really helped shape him as a point guard. And like I said, the rest is history. And then toward the end of his career, he played with the Knicks, where he didn't play many games at all. And then the Clippers, like those were just throwaway years. He ended it like Ben Wallace, as I said before in previous podcasts. I think the first 5 years he did nothing in the league. And then the next 6 years, he was a great player. And then the last 5 years, he did nothing. It was something to that effect. It was crazy. And look, like I said, the last 4 years, I'm looking at it now with Chauncey Billups. The first 5 years, he did nothing. The last four years, he played no more than 22 games in any of those seasons. Now, his best season came in 2009. That's when he averaged 19 points, 5 assists with the Denver Nuggets. Played in 73 games that year. They were 53-29. Lost in the first round to the Jazz. Look, because the guy's a champion, I don't even look at that. The guy has a championship. So here's how I look at it. Chauncey Billups, in my opinion, is borderline. He's a borderline Hall of Famer. I put him in before I put Ben Wallace in. I know Ben Wallace is all-time defensive great, and he's won Defensive Players of the Year. But between the two, I'm putting Chauncey in before I put Ben Wallace in. But I wanted to look at how Billups compared to other point guards in his era. And what other great point guard to put him up against? Being that I believe Stephon Marbury is who I put him up against. I looked at another point guard of his ilk. Stephon Marbury, I believe, came out in 96. Billups came out in 97. People, I would put Stephon Marbury into the Hall of Fame before Chauncey Billups. And this is just based on his NBA career. I'm not even talking about China. What Marbury did when he went overseas and played. And yeah, Marbury is a Hall of Famer. Remember, this is the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame, not NBA Hall of Fame. So when you're talking about putting guys in because of what they did in college and the NBA and coaching, Stephon Marbury deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. Yes, Stephon Marbury from New York, played with the Knicks. Look, Stephon Marbury is putting up 19 points, 7 boards, 7 assists. That's his NBA average. He went to China and became a legend. And I'll be the first to tell you, it's not always about championships in my book. And I'm putting Stephon Marbury in before I put in Chauncey Billups. Look, my Hall of Fame criteria is very hard. I'm sick of these leagues. They just put anybody in there just because they won a championship. Doesn't mean you're an all-time great because you won a championship. Now, Billups put in work. Not going to knock Chauncey Billups for anything he did. Looking back at his career, the guy put in work. But for me, he's borderline Hall of Famer. So for me, that means I don't really care if he gets in or if he doesn't. Ben Wallace, I'm sorry, it's a no to me. Stephon Marbury goes in before any of those guys. And that's how I feel about it. All right, so enough of that. Let's go on to this day in sports. On April 25th, back in 1974, the NFL moved the goalpost and adopts the sudden death rule. And they weren't playing sudden death before 74. I love sudden death. I don't like the whole both teams get the ball at least once. I think if you want to win, stop the other team. First team scores wins. All right. Also, back in 1993 on this date, Washington State quarterback Drew Bledsoe was the first pick by the New England Patriots. The New England Patriots have been blessed in the quarterback department. Take out last season with Cam Newton. Take out last season. That means this team went, 10, 20, 30, almost 30 years, people, with just two quarterbacks. Almost 30 years. They went from Drew Bledsoe to Tom Brady. Not many teams, except the Green Bay Packers, have had that luxury. Remember, the Packers, and I'm not counting injuries, the Packers went from having Brett Favre playing, I believe, the 93-94 season. I think it was 93 as well. They went from having Brett Favre to going into Aaron Rodgers playing. So those two teams they have excelled in the quarterback department. I don't know if you'll ever see that ever again, where you have teams that are going 20 years and they have used only two starting quarterbacks. Just doesn't happen in the NFL. Also, in 2009, on this day, the NFL draft, Georgia Bulldogs, the Lions drafted Georgia Bulldogs quarterback Matthew Stafford in the first round. I'm not so hot on Matt Stafford. I'm leaning toward him being. I won't say he's a bust, but he's advertised as a blockbuster, and I just don't see it. I lump him in the category of Matt Ryan. I don't know what the media has against Matt Ryan. Because I look at Matthew Stafford and I see the same thing. Matthew Stafford, has he won a playoff game? I don't think he's won a playoff game yet. So get back to me when Matthew Stafford wins a playoff game. We'll see what he's about with this year with the Rams. I think he's still going to be the same Stafford in Detroit. That's just my opinion. All right, hey, look, guys, that's all I got for you today. I thank you for including my podcast into your day. If you're listening on Spotify, follow the podcast. If you're on YouTube, subscribe, comment, like, all that good stuff. Go to the Facebook page to get in contact with the show for any comments or any suggestions. You've been listening to All Things Sports with Mike Davis. And remember, it's your world. I'm just giving my opinion. I'm out. Peace.
You're listening to All Things Sports with Mike Davis.